The second term arrived, and the trees in my house's garden started to change for the season. In a rare turn of events, Senpai called me that afternoon. Good afternoon, Sayaka-chan. Oh, Senpai, good afternoon. I practically abandoned my mechanical pen, which I hadn't moved much for a while anyway, lowering my voice as though to keep things secret from my family. I curled towards the phone, as if to absorb more of Senpai's voice. I must look like our house cats do when they are at ease, I thought absently. So, this is sudden, but could you meet me tomorrow? Tomorrow? I automatically checked the date and day of the week. Today and tomorrow were weekdays. I'll go over to your courtyard. Would after school work? Senpai was being uncharacteristically proactive. That's fine with me, but it seemed out of the ordinary, so I felt some hesitation, almost resistance. Senpai was coming to me, all the way to the junior high. Did you need something in particular? I wondered if it was something she couldn't talk to me about over the phone. Yeah, I'll tell you when we meet. I see. It sounded important. I was both nervous and hopeful. I'm looking forward to it. Okay. Senpai's voice grew steadily weaker and more distant. After we hung up, I tilted my head in puzzlement, though I wondered what it could be all about. My heart also bounded at the prospect of seeing Senpai. I took a glance at the no longer growing collection of novels on my bookshelf. It would be nice if we could talk about that sort of thing too. Perhaps this feeling, like an endless chronic disease, would be worth it in the end after all. And so, the weather was beautiful that day too. Gentle rays of sun poured down under the small puffy clouds, which seemed to symbolize the start of fall. As I touched the bench, the palms of my hands felt like they were gradually warming as well. I wondered how long it had been since I last visited the school's courtyard. At the very least, I hadn't come since second term had started, so it must have been before summer break, likely in spring. The deep green leaves I saw at that time were starting to gain just a little bit of color, and if it had been a long time since I'd come here, it had been even longer time since I'd been here with a purpose. I never thought I would wait here for Senpai again. I wondered if there was a similar courtyard in the high school. Maybe I would meet Senpai there in the coming year. Then, after that, Senpai would graduate again. I wondered if she was planning to go to college. We hadn't talked about anything as far off as that. But, just like when Senpai went off to high school, he would be an unavoidable problem before long. It was just another thing that I didn't know about her. She should be here soon. I stretched out my neck to look around for her. Although the uniform was the same at the high school, I felt like she would stand out if she walked around on the junior high grounds after school. I didn't see her anywhere, so I looked at the school building instead. It had changed a little over the past 6 months, though not for the better, I thought as my eyes were drawn to the small differences. The walls were duller now, as though crusted with dirt from the summer. And though it was around the same time of day as before, the shadows seemed as though they were longer than it had been in spring. They must have built up something more inside them since 6 months, or even a year ago. Nothing stays the same forever. Everything has a beginning and an ending. After a short while, Senpai appeared. When we had come here to meet, I had sometimes waited, while other times Senpai arrived first. Both things felt nostalgic now. It was almost like the two of us alone had turned back time to 1 year ago. As soon as I saw Senpai approaching, I stood up from the bench. My intention was to walk over quickly, but my legs had other ideas, hurrying over in a near sprint. In contrast to my impatience, Senpai stopped still, smiling faintly at me as I ran to her. I wondered why I felt such loneliness. Under the autumn sky, I had finally met with Senpai again. And yet, I didn't feel like the distance between us was shrinking. Your hair's getting longer. Senpai didn't even greet me before she pointed out that. You think so? I pinched at the strand of my hair, which came down to my neck. The last time I had seen Senpai in person was the spring. This was the first time I came to the courtyard. For Senpai and I, time had stopped just a bit before spring. More importantly, Senpai, I wanted to ask why she had called me here, but for some reason, I couldn't coax my voice to come out. Instead, I tried to touch Senpai's arm, as though clinging to her. But Senpai avoided me and moved away. Senpai? Unsmiling, Senpai looked away for a moment, but then she turned to me. So, Sayaka-chan, when she called me that, I somewhat unexpectedly remembered something. It was about 2.5 years ago. As a new student, I had gotten invitations to all kinds of clubs. Among them, Senpai had been in the choir club. It was much louder in comparison to the others, though that might have been the nature of the club. Among all of those loud voices, there had been just one person with a gentle voice, inviting me in. When she asked my name and I gave it, that upper class man called me by my name too, easily and warmly. Sayaka-chan, is it? Nice to meet you. An upper class man had started calling me by my first name, with Chan on the end, even though we had only met. I remembered feeling terribly uncomfortable. I wonder why that memory come back to me now, of all times. You and I aren't children anymore. In the outside world, junior high school students were always treated like children. So I didn't understand at first what Senpai was trying to say all of a sudden. So, Senpai hesitated. Some part of me wanted her to wait too. Hmm? I couldn't grasp what kind of conversation we were about to have. With a warm, endlessly peaceful scenery in the background behind us, Senpai finally said it. I don't think we should play at dating like this anymore. It's not good for us.